Hi, everyone, and welcome to this month's podcast. And I'm talking to Teresa Njoroge. Teresa is the founder and CEO of Clean Start Africa. Her story is so fascinating, and that is the reason why she's sitting here today, because I really honestly wanted to get this story out. It's something that we don't hear about very often, but it's important for us to know as women and also as women who are vulnerable and susceptible to things that may happen to us out of our control. So, Teresa, let's start.
Indeed.
How, okay, your story is incredible. I want to know, maybe let's talk about your early childhood and what you expected for yourself when you were a child and as you grew up into your career in banking.
Indeed. And thank you so very much, Njeri, for having me. It's such a great honor to be on Njeri Talks to share about my story, my experience, and hopefully how it could transform, impact, and support and inspire people who are either going through the same kind of a journey that I did, or the criminal justice actors who could figure out alternatives or best ways to administer justice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's start.
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up in a middle class, loving, small family. I'm the firstborn in a family of 5 children.
Yeah.
My mom was a homekeeper, and my dad was the career man. So
Yeah.
just taking on the responsibilities of provision, protection, and it was just incredible growing up. And my dad has always been my hero, so to speak. So observing him as a career banker, that really touched me softly in a nice way. My hero works at the bank, and that helped him to not only provide for his family in a timely manner. Of course, as a child, you really don't get to know the behind the scenes.
Correct.
But for me, observing, to me, it was like, I guess the reason why he's able to, be in charge and take care of things so well is because he works at the bank. And, during the Christmas party, he'd take us with him, or maybe when dropping us to school or maybe picking us from school, would make a stop at work. And so observing just how people at the banking world were so well put together, I admired that from a very young age. And from as young as I can remember, when I was 9, I made up my mind I want to be a banker just like my dad, so that I can also be well put together like everyone that I'm seeing within the banking
I mean,
sector.
I think a lot of people will not remember that a banking hall was a very serious place of business when we were growing up. It was actually intimidating to walk into a bank. It wasn't like noisy. It was a very and highly respectable people, dressed very sharply, etc. So I can imagine that that's what you got from it. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
It really ingrained such a positive picture for me growing up. So at school, I put in concerted effort in my banking and finance pursuit. After high school, got a fully paid for scholarship to study banking and finance. I was really, I set my mind on that.
Where was the scholarship?
So I got a full scholarship to go to India to do my Bachelor's of Commerce, Banking and Finance. And the reason why I picked that particular one, because there were several, is because I was certain that I wouldn't get derailed. I'd clear and come right back home. And, I love Kenya so much. I love our African continent. And I've always wanted to contribute towards making it much, much better. So got back, and within 2 to 3 years, I ended up, getting into the financial sector, got employment with some of the international banks in the country. And so was building my career. For 10 years, it was bliss, moving from one level to another. And as a firm Christian, I alluded it to also God's blessings. You're putting in the work, God's blessing you, directing your path. So from my early 20s to around 29, it was going very well. But Just when I had gotten to the height of it, at that particular time, I was a premier relationship bank manager. So really at the height of now this banking career.
So with exclusive clients, high-end clients,
Yes.
you were looking after them.
Exactly. And, meeting some of the huge decision makers in the country, and getting to understand behind the scenes, just much around finance, decisions around investments in the country, and so on and so forth. So it was also not only meeting incredible people in the country that, we admire, but also being part of shaping a lot of what's happening, because you are looking at the investments, the borrowing, and I felt, I was on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. So just about a decade into this career that I had loved so much and worked so hard to get into, I happened to handle a fraudulent transaction unknowingly. So, we come to work, a client walks in, requests for a transfer of, quite some amount of millions. And, with the high clientele, they could, just like many other clients, they could transact at any branch. So at that particular time, I was based at Yaya Center branch with the bank. And this client had come from the Westlands branch. And, he had a construction, or so he said, near Yaya. And that's why he came to see me at Yaya. And, served him over a period of about a month, because the first transaction was a cash withdrawal and a banker's check. And then after about, I think, a week or two, he came again. And this time round, he effected instructions to make an RTGS, so a real-time gross settlement. And we were transferring...
Internationally or locally?
Locally. And we were transferring the funds from our bank to another bank, just within
the country.
Yeah. And he left the instructions, but ours was, this time round, to just receive the instructions and then send them to his domicile branch, which was Westlands.
Okay.
So a month passes and we're done when we don't see him again for a while. A normal transaction, and you keep going with work. So after a while, we get a call from Westlands branch, and we're told the client is now at his domicile branch. And he says his account is missing a couple of millions. And he's asking who withdrew the funds, because he didn't.
He didn't give the instruction.
Yes. So we get into a frenzy, and the bank just, when you've been hit by a fraud, it just gets tense.
But how did you know it was a fraud from then?
So he said I'm not the one who withdrew these funds.
Okay.
He gets interrogated a little bit by the branch manager, Westlands, and he says, yes, I'm missing this amount of money. He gets, questioned by the relationship manager, and they call our branch, and we're like, yes, we served him. And within a few minutes, you realize that this is a fraud.
So what was the actual fraud? Was it the paperwork that he had signed, or there was no paperwork, or he had not given an instruction, or what was the actual fraud part?
Okay, so the owner of the funds, now the client, says that I am not the one who
gave the instruction.
Who gave this instruction. So that means that the funds were withdrawn from his account fraudulently.
Okay.
So the bank now has to get into investigations to find out how then
the money was taken,
withdrawn, if the instructions didn't originate from the owner of the funds.
Okay.
And the investigations, as the investigations were being done, because we had the paperwork, the signatures.
You had everything.
Basically, everything that was used to withdraw the funds, we had it in writing. And for instance, the RTGS was sent, the instructions were sent to Westlands. So they weren't transferring the funds out of the blues. There were instructions that were given. The banker's check, a client walked in, we followed due diligence, and we issued the RTGS, the withdrawal, the cash withdrawal as well. So the investigations, of course, included not just the paper trail, but also the CCTV.
Correct.
Now, where we began to notice the gaps were, for example, the CCTV on the very day he was making the withdrawal was blank.
Okay.
The CCTV at the mall, just showing him coming in. So because you need backing to prove that
He had actually walked in.
He walked in.
Yeah.
He just didn't make up a withdrawal. Someone walked into the bank and requested for these instructions. And we followed due diligence to check his signature. There's due diligence you need to follow to confirm that this is indeed the client. And the domicile branch in Westlands also has to make callbacks once they receive instructions with the client, especially for some particular amounts. We've received these instructions. So is it indeed true you want to transfer this amount of money? So all due diligence had been followed. So for the client to now walk in later and say, I didn't, we now had to follow the due diligence backward to connect the dots and get to understand, so who walked into the bank to give these instructions. And this happened over quite a long period of time, almost a year, because it's not just him who's being interrogated and the CCTV that, we're looking into. We're also asking questions, the teller, all the other bank staff who were involved. It was almost 12 staff that were involved in this transaction, the branch manager, the staff from the other branch. So it was quite heavy interrogation going on. And when all this was said and done over a period of a year, some people lost their jobs, immediately. And, for you're waiting for the final report so that you can get to understand what exactly happened. Was it an imposter who walked in, who knew how to sign exactly like him, who had his ID, and all that kind of stuff?
But from your perspective, the person who walked in was the person who signed.
Was the legitimate.
So it was, his face was this. I mean, is it something that you check, or
his ID, his signature, everything
matched
what we have in the bank. And as much as everything matched what we have in the bank, because, after a year and about a couple of months of the internal investigations, and I actually never got to see the final report. And we'll get to what happened after a year and couple of months of the investigations. But looking back wholesomely, at what exactly had happened, I can now tell that transaction didn't just happen out of the blues. And this client didn't just walk into Yaya, make such a perfect match of everything that was in the system. He definitely had insider information. Because, Njeri, there's no way you'll walk into a bank, you do not know the account holders, you don't know their signatures, you don't know their ID details, and then very confidently request, especially for a substantial amount of money.
I mean, how much was it?
It was totaling to 9.9 million shillings.
I mean, okay, so it is a very substantial amount.
It's quite some substantial.
It's a very substantial amount. But what you're saying is that you think that they were working with someone internally, and it matched all of the procedures they knew matched, and that
there was orchestrated preparation before he walked into Yaya branch. Definitely, with. And to date, I cannot still tell whether it was the client or not, because he walked into the branch. And then he said, I never walked into Yaya branch. But you walked in, you signed, and not just once, it was 3 transactions. 2 that were implemented at Yaya branch, and 1 that was implemented at your domicile branch. So for you to wait a couple of months later and then come and say, I didn't. How did you learn to sign exactly as the account holder? How did
So,
everything
so do you think
match?
it wasn't the account holder then? It wasn't the actual account holder. It was someone else who was pretending to be the account holder.
It could be.
Or you don't know.
It could be. And the reason why to date we can't affirm it is because the CCTV on the date was
Not available.
available.
To check that it was the actual person who walked in.
Exactly. To compare
So
that.
the only person that can confirm is you and the other people who were in the branch at the time.
Exactly.
Oh gosh. Okay,
exactly.
fine.
And unfortunately, to date, we weren't ever accorded that opportunity
Okay.
because versus the person we were dealing with and the CCTV of the person who walked in the bank, that will never happen.
Okay. So I mean that is immediately quite confusing for someone who is working in a position. You're trying to fulfill your role. Now there's a year later and you're being accused of fraud. So you were accused with other people of committing this fraud.
So after the year
Yeah.
and a couple of months of these internal investigations,
Yeah.
and I never got to see the final report or the final findings
Yeah.
of the investigations. What happens a year and plus some months later is that I come to be arrested.
Okay. So tell me about the day of the arrest, because anyone who has never been in police custody, never known anything about that, it can be quite a shock. I mean, I can imagine.
Definitely.
Explain that to
Yeah,
us.
and especially given the fact that people are still working in the bank, people are still walking in to draw their funds. I mean, you cannot have CCTVs and all this kind of evidence missing, yet it's what will protect your staff. So, you know, as a
Yeah,
staff,
as a staff
I
member.
felt I have no backing.
Correct.
If the bank that I'm representing is not offering me backup.
So they were not protecting you.
Exactly.
You felt as if you were just being
I was left
thrown to the
in
wolves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, it was the customer's word against mine.
Okay.
But where was the CCTV to really prove that he walked, or for us to check and say, indeed, the person who walked in isn't this person.
Okay.
You see, so that's an argument that we will never have. So just for organizations to, especially where it's these kinds of trust and very sensitive transactions where it involves money, to ensure that if it's things like CCTV, they're working. If it's things like the due diligence process, then that has been followed, to really then query each step of the way and not leave. And that's why I say, even to the point of they were more than, I think, 12 of us, you know, if I include the other bank staff who are involved in all this payment. Because when the RTGS hit the other account, it was definitely withdrawn from the other bank's account by someone.
Okay.
But again, we did not see or know who drew the funds when they hit the other account. And what makes this malicious is the fact that a year plus months later, I was the only one who got arrested out of everyone.
Why were you the only one?
So that's the question to date that I keep asking. And that's why I kept requesting, could I see your final investigations report?
Okay.
So that I can see the findings, the recommendations, and how you concluded and got to the point that Teresa Njoroge is the one we're going to arrest.
But why? Okay, why were they not giving you this documentation? Because surely you're entitled to see what I'm being accused of.
And how we arrived
Yes.
to this point.
Yes.
But Njeri, this is where it actually gets even more malicious. The arresting officer said to me, and he came from Central Bank unit,
Yeah.
you know, with a lady who walked into the bank and said, you know, they were looking for me and they told me that they had come to arrest me. And when they came and arrested me and took me to Central Bank fraud unit and interrogated me the entire day. So this is the other thing. They didn't accord me a lawyer, legal representation, because they would have said, you're under arrest. As a Kenyan, you have a right to legal representation.
Correct.
But that wasn't accorded to me. So after the entire day of interrogating me and asking me to write a statement. And then in the evening, taking me and booking me at Kileleshwa police station, the arresting officer did say to me that he knew I was innocent. He knew I hadn't committed these crimes, because that entire day was a back and forth day. Because, I mean, Njeri, people won't just walk in here and say, we're here to arrest you. And you know very well there's no wrongdoing of your own that warrants this arrest. You'll have a back and forth with them. And that back and forth took the entire day. You know, how did we get here? How did you know, out of everyone, how was it just me that you know, got down to? So because of that back and forth and really putting this arresting officer to task, he eventually said to me, I actually know that you're innocent. I actually do know that you didn't commit these crimes. And his words, you have been handpicked to carry the cross on behalf of the bank. Those were his words verbatim.
Gosh.
So hearing those words now made me understand why I couldn't see the final report.
Yeah.
Why I couldn't see the CCTV. There was a lot of malice in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the emotions they range from, there's the embarrassment of being arrested in the bank, there's the loss of the job, there's now that you're being framed or seemingly framed for this. And
it was really heartbreaking in the sense that, you know, you're in the media, so you're in the newspapers, you know, you're in the news. And what that means is that it's not just in the country, but in the whole world.
Yeah.
Your name is now tagged to theft and fraud.
And fraud, yeah.
You know, and you know, it was just at the height of, you know, building my career, building my reputation, and at the height of that, you know, you've got this dent.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be damaging. Anyone who's a professional and building their career, I mean, that is just heartbreaking. Okay, fine. So we're now at the point where you go back to Kileleshwa police station.
Yeah.
You're now going to sleep in the police station. Is that it?
Yes.
How can, I mean, what is that like?
I tell you, so you woke up in the morning, it was January, it was 7th of January. You know, so New Year, you made all these New Year resolutions, all these plans, and then you report back to work after the Christmas holidays, and as soon as you're settling back in, the arrest happens and you're off to Kileleshwa police station. So I spent the night at Kileleshwa police station.
What was that first night like?
It was, so I tell you, Njeri, that was the first night like I transnighted. Because they arrested me around mid-morning, spent the entire day with them at the Central Bank Fraud Unit. And then in the evening around 6 p.m., that's when we're driving to Kileleshwa police station. I have never been to a cell. I have never interacted with police ever in my life. So this is my first time. And booked into the OB.
Yeah.
My phone is taken and that entire process. And then I'm shown into the cell. And I get into this cell, and there are all these other women who have been rounded up in the course of the day and were locked in this little small cell.
All of you are together in the cell?
All of us in this little cell. And that was the first time now of understanding how cruel the police service can be, in the sense that your dignity, your freedom has gone, but little things like just using the washroom, you know, just little things like being in a space like this where we are, you can imagine you left clean, nice places, and you're in this place that's really stinking. So, and you're wondering, my goodness, why are we even being treated this way? And in your mind, you're like, the arresting officer said to me, he knows I'm innocent, but I have been handpicked, and why all this? So I spent the entire day seated on the floor, the entire night, seated on that floor, till I could hear the birds chirping in the morning, and it's morning now, because so many things are going through your mind. What has gone wrong? Why me? How did we end up here? such a tough situation, so traumatizing.
Did you get a chance to speak to your family beforehand? Did you? Okay, so
Yeah,
they knew where you were.
So I got to speak to my family just before I got booked in.
Okay, fine.
And all day I had been requesting, can I call my employer? Can I call, because they didn't know where they whisked me from the banking hall and off I went. But my employer didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
My family didn't know where I was. And just before I got booked into Kileleshwa, they gave me the opportunity to make a call. So I called my family. My family lives in Kiambu. So, they had to drive at night. My parents to come all the way to Kileleshwa police station, really tried to talk to the police officers. Could we have her and then bring her wherever it is? I mean, we're not criminals.
Yeah.
But as the hours passed by, they soon realized that, that this is it.
There was nothing that they could do.
Yeah.
And when did you get an opportunity to speak to a lawyer then?
I got an opportunity to talk to a lawyer post.
So after that night?
Because after I was picked in the morning, we went, I can't even remember where we went, but I remember we went to this place where they took my fingerprints, put them on the charge sheet.
Okay.
And then I was arraigned in court. All this time I have no lawyer.
Wait, this was the same first day or the second day?
So now this is the second day.
Second day, okay.
So the first day, they've taken me to Central Bank for a gate.
You did the whole day. You go
this
to
statement that they've taken.
Yeah.
They've booked me at night,
Kileleshwa.
Kileleshwa police station. The following morning, the arresting officer comes for me, takes me to this place. I can't quite remember where, because we're riding in this white vehicle, and it's you've got people around you. And all you're entering offices from behind.
So you don't get to
you
see.
Can't really get to tell.
Where you are.
Where exactly are we? And honestly, I can't remember. The ride from Central Bank fraud unit to Kileleshwa, that I can remember. But from the point of Kileleshwa, the next minute I got to know where we are is when I was arraigned in court.
Okay.
And at that time, it was at Milimani, where we've got the Supreme Court now.
Okay.
Sorry, the courts have now moved to Milimani. So that time, the courts were where we've got the Supreme Court now. So I remember, that morning, he took my fingerprints, put them on the charge sheet. And as he's putting my fingerprints on the charge sheet, he's asking me, might you have 1 million Kenya shillings?
For what?
And he says, if you call a few people, if you get me this 1 million Kenya shillings, we can end this right here, right now. And I'm saying to him, you say to me, I'm innocent. I didn't commit these crimes. Now you're asking me to get you the 1 million Kenya shillings cash, and then we can drop this. And I am like, no way. Why are you doing this? And at that particular time, because I had never interacted with the criminal justice system, so I really don't know how it works.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to him, this is wrong. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, what audacity does this guy have to do something that he knows is wrong and still proceed? Like, if you're doing something wrong, you've got to really have a backing to know that nothing will happen to you.
Yes.
I mean, where's the level of culpability here when you do something wrong?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to say to him, what you're doing is wrong. And to try and, awake his senses that you can't be going this route. But he was so confident and continued. And he said to me, okay, if you don't get me that 1 million, he asked me, do you know where Langata Women Maximum Prison is?
Yeah.
And I told him, no, I don't know. This whole thing was very new to me. And he told me that tonight, that's where you will be. And true to his word. So now I was remembering, because now after that process, we go upstairs, now I can tell. So we were in the cells where the Supreme Court is, the cells downstairs, and then we went up the stairs. And when the door opened, it was full of people. And, I remember seeing the lights and the cameras. And I was like, my God, why are people taking my photos? Why are they photographing me like this? And, where in the bench that we were, there were all these people who had come that morning from prison.
For different cases.
And I'm with them.
Okay.
So remember, I left yesterday morning at my house to go to work.
Yeah.
The whole night in Akileleshwa. Now it's morning. And this is my first now interaction with the public once again. I haven't taken a shower. So those are my stresses.
So you hadn't taken a shower?
Yeah.
Had they given you the
haven't
prison
taken breakfast?
Okay. Had they
no
given you the
change of
prison no
clothes,
change of clothes?
Just the same
same
way
clothes you left
last morning
home with.
To go to work with. Spend the whole day in those clothes. Spend the whole night in those clothes. Haven't taken a shower this morning. Come to court just the same way in that dirt. And you're meeting all these other people who are as dirty as you are. And the courtroom is so intimidating.
By that time, did you have a lawyer? You didn't?
Yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So you're still not knowing
Just not
the charge.
knowing.
Did you know the charge?
I didn't know the charges.
Okay, fine. Mm-hmm.
So for the very first time now,
Is when
I am, and he says to me, when you hear your name, you stand up.
And at that time, no one, aside from taking the fingerprints, they had not explained to you the process that you will go through here.
Zero.
So he just said, when you hear
your name,
stand up.
Stand up.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I have no idea what happens, what this is about. So as we're sitting with all these other men and women who've come from the different prisons, the side of the accused people. And there are also some prison warders. All I'm seeing is a lot of police around me.
Okay.
And now the people who are taking photos. So I hear my name at some point and I stand up and everyone in court is looking at you. So it's so tense, it's so intimidating, it's so embarrassing. And so I'm hearing my charges now.
Okay.
And there are 4 charges.
What was the charges? What were the charges?
The first charge is that on this and this and this date, at this and this and this place, you stole this amount of money. And there are 3 charges of theft. So the first charge, and the magistrate asks me whether I'm guilty or not guilty, and I say I'm not guilty. And he keeps reading these charges, and there were 4 charges. So there were 3 charges of theft, and the final 4th one is on conspiracy to defraud the bank.
Okay.
And to all the charges, I say I am not guilty. And, I'm actually thinking I'll explain myself.
During this process?
During this time. And the magistrate tells me that he's giving me a bail.
Okay.
Bail.
Yeah.
Bail. Failure to which I will
go to Langata. Okay, so how much was the bail?
It was $1 million plus something. So and then immediately after that, we're all taken now down to the cells again, and we're locked in this cell. So and those cells, you don't even want to imagine what it was like, because you're hundreds of you in a very tiny, very dark cell. The windows are way up there, very tiny little windows up there. And it's not windows, it's like rails, some little rails. And you're hundreds of you locked in this place, and you're fearing for your life. There's no light. It's just so difficult. And as I'm in there, now my parents are running up and down to get a lawyer, to get a lawyer for me. And as they are looking for the lawyer, looking for the bail, there was a cutout time by when they should have gotten the lawyer, by when they should have brought in the funds for me to be processed, which they didn't meet.
Okay.
So when the cutout time came, and unfortunately what happens is that there are so many people hanging around the court who are saying we can help you with this. So you're being, there's so much money that is going as you're trying to get the lawyer, as you're getting to get this money paid, people who are saying we can help you. But anyway, they didn't make the cut time. And so I was put into the Kenya Prison Service bus, and true to the arresting officer's words, I was put into Langata maximum women's prison remand.
Okay, 2 questions I have on that. Number one, did you realize they explained that there was a cutout time? They explained what time? Did they explain anything to you, or how did you know that this?
None of that.
None of that.
So when I was taken into this cell, I had no communication whatsoever with my parents.
Okay.
Now they have been left figuring out. So remember, last night they came to the police station. They were told, let us meet. So they're being told at the police station, let us meet tomorrow. So they weren't told anything.
They were just told,
anybody.
Let's meet at the courts.
I called them and told them, I was arrested this morning. I am now at the police station.
Okay.
And then they came, and that's where they were told, let's meet tomorrow.
At the court.
At the court. So my parents come to court. And at court, when we meet, this happens, and I'm now whisked away. So they have heard about this money of bail, and they've also heard of the charges, as I was hearing.
The same time as you were hearing.
Same time.
Okay.
So now they've got to go and look for this bill to come and pay, and they have no idea how this system works. Where are we paying the bill?
Yeah.
So they're figuring this out. Plus also they're figuring out we need a lawyer. So in all that process, there are all these people coming to them, we could help and all this kind of stuff. So they lost quite some amount, just the few hours of figuring this out. But by the following day, they had a lawyer. By the following day, they had the money. And
are you able to pay the money?
Yes.
You are able.
Yeah.
But by that time, you had already spent the first night at Langata.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the process at the registry.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as much as they had the cash, they were taken in circles. I took about 2 days before I got out.
Okay, fine.
And there was a weekend.
Okay, fine. So you had to spend the entire time there.
By the time now the bail is paid, and then they come to prison to show that
the bail has been paid.
And now live with me.
Okay. And I guess you're not able to leave over the weekend either.
Of course.
Because the offices are closed. Okay, fine. All right. During that time,
what
are you thinking? Like, what is going on? How are the other prisoners? Tell us explain to us.
Oh my goodness, so many questions are going through my mind.
Yeah.
So, like, I felt like I had just been thrown into some very deep ocean. And the first thing you ask yourself is this Kenya? Like, am I still in Kenya? You even get to a point where you're asking yourself, am I still alive? Is this really happening? Because I've not committed this crime. This process is going on. Like, is this real?
Yeah.
And as you're asking yourself all these questions, so my family have time to come over the weekend to Langata. And you can imagine how devastated they are.
I'm sure.
That's the first time I meet my lawyer.
Yeah.
And they say to me, we found a lawyer, he's the lawyer. And we get to meet and talk. And they say to me, we're getting the bill, and, soon rather than later, we'll pay it and you're leaving. But during this time, again, the remand was another hectic place. Thousands of you, people who have stayed here for years, people who are telling you that they're there for bills that are ridiculous, and you're like, you're here for 10,000, you're here for 5,000.
Or like a 10,000 shilling bail. Yeah, but they can't afford it.
They can't afford it.
Yeah.
So the shock. So everything is happening like you're locked in here because of a 10,000.
Yeah.
And how long have you been here?
Yeah.
So there's so much I'm getting to learn over this weekend
Yeah.
within such a very short time. So I'm sympathizing and empathizing with what I'm going through, but at the same time, I'm empathizing with these hundreds of women who are here, and it was so crowded. So there were no beds,
There are no beds.
and we had to be on so like sardines, because you're so many of you, and oh my goodness. But over and above that, there were all these other issues of taking a shower. You soon realize that taking a shower is a privilege because running water is an issue. So you're also getting to learn how people survive in remand, taking a shower. So just your dignity.
Yeah.
Like the last time I showered was when? Now I'm here, like I'd really like to take a good bath. And then you realize, oops, like your life has really changed. First, the injustice. Secondly, dignity is gone. Third, there were others who were coming from police stations. So when their cases are ongoing, they are situated at police stations. But over the weekend, they are brought, like Kiambu Court, they are brought to Langata over the weekend. And then on Monday, they go back to the police station to continue with their cases.
So these are the people whose cases were ongoing. The trial was already going through.
Trials are ongoing.
Okay.
And then others tell you, I have been here in remand for 7 years, for 10 years. Our case is still ongoing. And they're laughing at me and saying, if your bail is over $1 million, then, we'll be with you for a while. We'll be with you here for a while. I mean, if I can't leave because of 20,000.
Then how can you leave because of $1 million?
You'll be here. So they're like, I've been here 7 years. Don't worry. We'll do the years with you. And I'm thinking to myself, this can't be normal. And then you ask, why are you here? And, I didn't need to tell them why I was there because they had already seen the
It was in the
news,
press.
so they had already read about my story in the newspaper. You arrive and they tell you, oh, we were expecting you because we saw you in the news and we had your bail terms. Well, you're definitely coming. So we were expecting you. And the questions are like, so where is this money that you stole? And, so you want to learn. So why are you here? And I was so shocked when they told me why they were there. Very frivolous charges. I was arrested on a hawking, selling their wares in the streets without a license.
Yeah.
I was arrested on a charge of loitering with intent. And I'm like, so what does that mean? I was prostituting, like.
What you mean is it was not a serious charge. It's charges that you could actually pay a fine, petty crimes that you could pay a fine for. But is there a difference between the criminal ones and yourselves, or everyone is in the same place?
We're in the same place.
So criminal people who may have committed murder,
the murderers
are still in the same.
The people who robbed with violence,
are still in the same place.
The people who were arrested loitering, So what I learned, because I soon left after, the bail was paid, and you can imagine the shock on the others when they saw me leave.
Yeah.
I learned that because I left with a full list of their children, because a lot of them were like, when I got arrested, I left my children in the house by themselves. And so I left with a long list of children that I needed to go look for and talk to their teachers and talk to guardians who would support them. So what I learned from that was how the non-criminal people, the ones who commit the petty offenses and are all put together with the criminals, how they're used as conduits by the criminals to now continue with their cycles, because the criminals will be there for a while. Some of those cases don't have bail. So they'll be there for a while and they only leave on their date
when the sentence is,
or the sentence, or maybe the day they have court.
Yeah.
But the people with the petty offenses, 2-3 weeks, they're out, So they use them to run their errands and contact the other criminals on the outside
To continue
with their work.
Okay.
Because anyway, you see, if I have come in and they say to you, these criminals, next time come here with a proper crime. Don't come with these petty, stupid things. You're the ones filling the prison for no good reason. Come back here with something proper. So these people have been arrested out of desperate situations. They were hawking or they were prostituting out of desperation. And they've met a criminal who is saying to them, if you do X, Y, Z for me, I've got 100K for you, 500K for you. They'll go for that because anyway, even if they go to the streets to hawk or to prostitute, it's 100 bob, 1,000 bob.
But this is some serious
But this
money.
is some substantial money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to execute whatever it is that they want me to execute because anyway, I'll get something
substantial.
substantive. So I soon realized that this situation actually is breeding ground for recruiting people with no criminal minds into crime.
Okay. There's so many things that we can discuss in the criminal process itself. Let's continue on your story,
my
so that we can now finish that and then start with the...
I come out on bail.
Okay.
And immediately I come out, I get called by my employer.
Yeah.
And they say to me, we are letting you go and terminating you. And that's how my career that I loved so much
Ended.
came to an end. So soon after that, anyway, you've got a whole case in front of you. And the best thing that you can do is put as much concerted effort to defend yourself. So I was working day and night with my legal counsel. Any information I could get to put my case together. And in any case, every month I had to go answer to a mention so that my bail terms
Remain the same.
intact.
Yeah.
And if not that, then the case is proceeding. So it was
Did you have support from the other employees within who were also co-accused with you, or because I guess they also were there during the case? Did you have support from them, or did you feel completely isolated from them?
So what shocked me is that all my former colleagues were part of prosecution.
Okay.
So I was the only one
Yeah.
who had been charged. But what, because the case took about 2.5 years to complete, to get to sentencing, what I love is the fact that none of them gave any false witness. Each one of them came and said the truth, exactly what happened. So the 2.5 years of in and out of court, which was so grueling.
I can imagine.
Having a case in court, especially as an accused person, every morning you're waking up to go to court, you've got butterflies, and then just standing there, and it was a very tough 2.5 years. But I'm grateful that my colleagues who were now part of prosecution did not lie. And that gave me confidence in the sense that absolutely there is no evidence whatsoever that I have committed any crime. That gave me confidence. But as much as it gave me confidence, this arresting officer, now 2.5 years later, said to me, we're going for sentencing.
But the sentencing surely comes when you have been either found guilty or not. So was the case that you were found guilty, or the case that you were found not guilty?
So this time now, when we're going to get the outcome,
the judgment,
judgment. So yes, now when we're coming to judgment, I'm combining judgment and sentencing because that's what happened. So as we are nearing judgment, this arresting officer says to me, I need to give him 5 million Kenya shillings. And I need to give him 5 million Kenya shillings so that the case can go in my favor.
So that the judgment can be
in my
not
favor.
Guilty.
Yes.
Not guilty.
Yeah. So at this time, because of the 2.5 years that I have been in this court system, I have begun developing fear. Fear in the sense that there's some people we began this journey with whom I've seen sentenced. There's, all this intimidation and just seeing how the system works. I had begun seeing that even though I am not guilty, there's a probability I might not get justice.
Yeah.
So I had started leaning towards perhaps it would be wise to get into a deal with him and therefore secure my freedom. So I was at that point during the judgment.
I can understand that,
session. However, I didn't go through with my consideration of giving him the 5 million because my father said to me, let's stand on the truth of the fact that you didn't commit the crime. You've shared all, your truth. And as far as your legal counsel is concerned, there has absolutely been nothing presented to court that has proven the fact that you committed the crime. So let's stand on the truth.
I mean, let's give it up for good fathers who are there standing by their daughters.
You can say that again. So and I'm so glad now looking back, I wouldn't have made that decision. I wouldn't have made the right decision at that time, given all the fear that I had. And remember, I had friends now who were accused as well that I met when I was
during
in
the
remand
process, yeah.
and during this process. So I'm becoming friends with some of the women I met when I was in remand. Sometimes we meet in court, or others that I meet with them. So I'm hearing
their stories.
And so I'm getting to understand the realities. And so, to your point, I thank God for my father, for his stamina to stand with the truth and not be compromised, because I might have been compromised because of the fear.
Because of the fear,
had.
okay.
Yeah.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get to the judgment.
So we get to the judgment. Now, when we're getting to, when we delay the judge, so the judgment takes place 3 months post the time so we took some time before going for judgment because I was expecting my first child.
Okay.
My daughter Oma. And 3 months after being blessed with her, we go for judgment. And we have made the decision that we're not going to negotiate how to secure. We're going to go with what the magistrate will rule. So we go for judgment. I'm now coming for judgment with my 3-month-old daughter. And the magistrate starts reading, her findings. And she reads and reads and reads and reads. And when she gets to now the judgment part, she drops the first 3 counts on theft.
Of the theft.
Yes. And she says, there has been no evidence whatsoever that you stole any money. When she gets to the 4th count on conspiracy, she says that I might have conspired. I might have known that this was a fraudulent transaction and might have conspired with whoever it is stole the money. So on that count, she sentences me to serve a year at Langata Women Maximum Prison. So that's how that day, on 4th of March of 2011, I go to Langata Women Maximum Prison.
So immediately you're taken to the cells.
Immediately she reads
Yeah.
that judgment and sentences me. Immediately I'm surrounded by police. Immediately. And as soon as she finishes on my case and closes that file, the police women who have surrounded me go with me now down back to the
But
cell.
not with the baby.
With the baby.
With the baby.
With the baby.
Okay. What were you thinking at that? Okay. First of all, what were you thinking at that point? It is just way too much. even when you were having your child or when you were, pregnant, did you give consideration to the fact that I could go to jail?
No.
Even in that time, you did not?
No, not at all. I had a lot of faith
Yeah.
with the process.
Yeah.
And the more there was no evidence, I had so much faith
Yeah.
that because there's no evidence, there is no way
That I'm guilty.
they can find me guilty. You need evidence to prove that I am guilty.
Even with the conspiracy charge, what was the evidence that they had of the possible conspiracy?
So I can confidently say none, because as soon as I got into prison, within 14 days, you need to put in your appeal.
Yeah.
Which went on for another close to 2.5 years. So by
But during the appeal,
Yeah.
were you on bail or were you in
I
remand?
was in prison.
You were in prison the entire
in
time. There's
prison.
no bail
The-
for the appeal period.
So I was given, so this is what happened. But to answer your question on what this conspiracy,
Yeah.
what is it that they had this conspiracy
Yeah.
charge on? There was nothing, because when we got to now the end of the 2.5 years, the Court of Appeal judge found that it was malicious. And he categorically said that I was sentenced on a malicious count because there has been no evidence whatsoever
Of conspiracy.
and he quashed the sentence, but it was 2.5 years waiting.
But 2.5 years spent in jail.
In jail.
Total of 4.5 years spent.
Almost five.
Five
Almost
in
5 years
in that
of my
in that
life,
whole period.
that entire process. Almost 5 years of
I mean,
my life.
it's like a horror movie.
It really is. So I go into prison and you're given 14 days within which you post the appeal.
Yeah.
So we do that.
Yeah.
And it's really a horror movie because my legal counsel drops
Okay.
and says that I'm not appealing.
Okay. And why was that?
Very good question. And eventually he tells me that he's in it. He's with the prosecution.
I'm confused.
And he's telling me this while I'm in prison.
I'm confused. He's saying that he is working with the prosecution on your case. Isn't that like a breach of all manner of ethics and etc.? Okay. Okay. Okay.
It was like, I see your reaction. That's exactly what it was like for me. And this is like he's telling this to me in prison.
I mean, I'm just wondering, and we can get that. We can get to that later. But all of these actors, have you taken action against them since then? Because you may have a case against him, you may have a case against the bank, you may have a case against the prosecution for their behavior. What have you done about it since then, or you've just left it? Which is really what people do, because they don't feel, you feel powerless, isn't it?
Yeah. So for my lawyer, he passed on, so may his soul rest in peace. And so that's how I left that. For the bank, so I put in the appeal. Unfortunately, getting dates in court was quite something. By the time I get the bond pending appeal, I only have 2 months to go to clear with the sentence.
Oh, because the sentence had already been, it's a year sentence.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So it had taken 8 months to get to the point where you could pay the bond for the appeal.
Pending appeal. So that I come out,
Okay.
continue with my appeal while I'm on the outside.
Okay.
At that point, I said to my parents, don't pay the bond pending appeal. So I chose to complete the 2 months, get done with that sentence, because I did not want to imagine the thought of coming out on a bond pending appeal and then we get done with the appeal. So at this time, my faith with the justice system is at zero. Like, I don't see how, as much as I have put in this appeal, I will get justice. Just given the fact that from the point of arrest, the arresting officer knew I was innocent, he still proceeded. At the point of, being at the lower courts with the magistrate courts, there was no evidence, I still got sentenced. Now with the appeal, my threshold for justice was so low as far as the criminal justice system is concerned. I was actually just going through this appeal case for the sake of just going through this appeal case.
Okay.
So I said to my parents, let me complete the 2 months, get done with this sentence, and it's behind us, so that when I come out, they have nothing over my head. If the appeal says they don't find me innocent, I served my sentence anyway, and we can end it at that.
Okay, fine.
So I complete the sentence completely, come out, and continue with the appeal case. So it continues for another year and a half or so. And so when we get to the end of the appeal and we go for the judgment, that's when the Court of Appeal says they're quashing the sentence. It was malicious, and there was no evidence throughout. Like, the judge can't find any reason why I was sentenced. Plus, if I would have conspired, I would have conspired for a gain, and there has been no gain whatsoever. There's no evidence or proof that I even took a coin from this transaction. And so it's at that point that I now go to the civil courts for compensation for the wrongful and malicious prosecution and the incarceration. So this is another 2 years plus at the civil court. And it's costing me money.
Of course.
Oh, the courts, oh my goodness. What was so disappointing for me was the fact that even after being vindicated, getting my certificate of good conduct, no one could give me a job.
Yeah.
So you live with this stain forever.
Yeah.
Even after going through the Court of Appeal, like, people will always associate you with a fraud case, even though the courts have determined you were innocent.
Yeah.
So there's no empathy. There's nothing that will ever make up for what
has happened. Yeah.
And then the other very disappointing part is the fact that the people who were behind all this, knowing too well you were innocent, walk free. Like, there's no culpability for them. Whether they arrested you wrongly, whether they convicted you wrongly, it's in the line of duty, and it's up to you now. So when we go to the civil court and now we're battling the compensation, we get to the point where the court is now determining my compensation. And the injustices continue, in the sense that I was, taking my petition against the government for the wrongful incarceration and the bank for the malicious prosecution, because they were the ones who initiated. And the government says they'll pay, but the bank says we will not. And the bank says we put up an appeal and begin the case.
For the appeal.
Yeah. At that point, I am like, enough. Enough, because, and I like what you talked about as a woman, it had really gotten personal, very painful, because the people who were representing the bank were now attacking me, not from a point of objectivity, but from a point of, this is just a woman who's found a bank to leech on. and giving examples of a woman who is looking for men out there to get money and, all that kind of stuff. So I would hear all kinds of insults. And I had been too broken to have the stamina to continue. So my family really wanted to support me to continue fighting the bank, financially, emotionally, physically, and whatever it took. Unfortunately, I was at the end of me. I could not stand in court to continue with this fight. So, and then over and above that, it now got to a point where I was also now fearing for my own life.
I mean, even now, do you fear for your life now? Because obviously this is very controversial and you don't hear many people being either vindicated in court or even saying their story. But you're coming out and you're saying, I was innocent, this was malicious, it was not a correct sentence. This is what the bribe that I was told to pay in order to get me. So you are not afraid that this is then this can come back to you.
I am. I always have been. Because you know who you're going up against.
Yeah.
It's literally the criminal justice actors of this country. And these people, they're hearing you speak up against them. So they would silence you.
Yeah.
So that you don't pinpoint. But my point has never been to pinpoint the individuals. It has been to stop a system that comes against innocent people. I believe the criminal justice system exists to protect the innocent people, to keep law and order, and to take away from society people who are a danger to everyone else. So if you are a law-abiding citizen in this country, you're doing the right thing, and then they come after you, where is the confidence with the very system we run to? How I wish we worked with the very arresting officer who was saying to me, Teresa, I know you're innocent.
Yeah.
How I wish we worked together to stop them, because if you come for me and I'm innocent, and you know I'm innocent, you want to take bribes from me, you want to punish me, you've left the very people who committed these crimes to continue.
Yeah.
And
it's 5 years of your life in this.
It's actually more than 5. Okay, 5 years directly.
Yeah.
Indirectly for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This matter, it's such a dent, not just as far as my life is concerned, my children's life.
Yeah.
My family's life, it's a dent on that family. Like the impact that wrongful, malicious arrest has.
Yeah.
And just based on people's greed, based on people's lack of moral conscience. So I have always been afraid for my life, but as much as I am afraid, you do the best that you can to spotlight an injustice, to spotlight an ill, in the hopes that thousands of other women or millions of other women, plus also that our country would truly honor justice for its citizens.
Okay, so did you get compensation from the government, or
Yes.
you did get compensation?
So I got compensation from the Office of the Attorney General of the country. So the government did compensate me.
Okay.
The bank did not compensate me.
Okay.
And that's where we ended it at.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is all the background to where you are now, which I think is really the point, because out of a horrible story can come out something that is going to illuminate and change the way that we think. And this is really why we're here, to talk about your business and how you are making sure that women and girls, and now men, as you said, are no longer going to be affected by the kind of injustice that you have suffered. So maybe we can just move on to that, because honestly, this has been a lot.